The Rope of Fear by Mary E. and Thomas W. Hanshew. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Darvinia. The Rope of Fear by Mary E. and Thomas W. Hanshew. If you know anything of the country of Westmoreland, you will know the chief market town of Merton Sheppard. And if you know Merton Sheppard, you will know there is only one important building in that town besides the massive town hall, and that building is the Westmoreland Union Bank, a private concern, well backed by every wealthy magnate in the surrounding district, and patronized by everyone from the highest to the lowest degree. Anybody will point the building out to you, firstly because of its imposing exterior, and secondly because everyone in the whole county brings his money to Mr. Naylor Brent to do with it what he wills. For Mr. Naylor Brent is the manager, and besides being known far and wide for his integrity, his uprightness of purpose, and his strict sense of justice, he acts to the poorer inhabitants of Merton Sheppard as a sort of father confessor in all their troubles, both of a social and a financial character. It was toward the last of September that the big robbery happened, and upon one sunny afternoon at the end of that month Mr. Naylor Brent was pacing the narrow confines of his handsomely appointed room in the bank, visibly disturbed. That he was awaiting the arrival of someone was evident by his frequent glances at the marble clock which stood upon the mantel-shelf, and which bore across its base a silver plate upon which were inscribed the names of some 15 or more grateful customers, whose money had passed successfully through his managerial hands. At length the door opened, after a discreet knock upon its oaken panels, and an old, bent, and almost decrepit clerk ushered in the portly figure of Mr. Maverick Narkom, superintendent of Scotland Yard, followed by a heavily built, dull-looking person in navy blue. Mr. Naylor Brent's good-looking, rugged face took on an expression of the keenest relief. "Mr. Narkom himself! This is indeed more than I expected," he said, with extended hand. "We had the pleasure of meeting once in London, some years ago. Perhaps you have forgotten?" Mr. Narkom's bland face wrinkled into a smile of appreciation. "Oh, no, I haven't," he returned pleasantly. "I remember quite distinctly. I decided to answer your letter in person, and bring with me one of my best men, friend and colleague, you know, Mr. George Headland." "Pleased to meet you, sir. And if you'll both sit down, we can go into the matter at once. That's a comfortable chair over there, Mr. Headland." They seated themselves, and Mr. Narkom, clearing his throat, proceeded in his usual official manner to "take the floor." "I understand from headquarters," said he, "that you have had an exceptionally large deposit of banknotes sent up from London for payments in connection with your new canal. Isn't that so, Mr. Brent? I trust the trouble you mentioned in your letter has nothing to do with this money." Mr. Naylor Brent's face paled considerably, and his voice had an anxious note in it when he spoke. "Gad, sir, but it has!" he ejaculated. "That's the trouble itself. Every single banknote is gone. £200,000 is gone, and not a trace of it. Heaven only knows what I'm going to do about it, Mr. Narkom, but that's how the matter stands. Every penny is gone. Gone!" Mr. Narkom drew out a red silk handkerchief and wiped his forehead vigorously, a sure sign of nervous excitement, while Mr. Headland exclaimed loudly, "Well, I'm hanged!" "Someone certainly will be," rapped out Mr. Brent sharply, "for not only have the notes vanished, but I've lost the best night watchman I ever had, a good, trustworthy man." "Lost him?" put in Mr. Headland curiously. "What exactly do you mean by that, Mr. Brent? Did he vanish with the notes?" "What? Will Simmons? Never in this world. He's not that kind. The man that offered Will Simmons a bribe to betray his trust would answer for it with his life. A more faithful servant or better fellow never drew breath. No, it's dead he is, Mr. Headland, and I can hardly speak of it yet. I feel so much to blame for putting him on the job at all, but you see we've had a regular series of petty thefts lately. Small sums unable to be accounted for. Safes opened in the most mysterious manner, and money abstracted. Though never any large sums, fortunately. Even the clerks' coats had not been left untouched. I have had a constant watch kept, but all in vain. So naturally, when this big deposit came to hand on Tuesday morning, I determined that special precautions should be taken at night, and put poor old Simmons down in the vault with the bank's watchdog for company. That was the last time I saw him alive. He was found writhing in convulsions, and by the time that the doctor arrived upon the scene he was dead. The safe was found open, and every note was gone." "Bad business indeed," declared Mr. Headland, with a shake of the head. "No idea as to the cause of death, Mr. Brent? What was the doctor's verdict?" Mr. Naylor Brent's face clouded. "That's the very dickens of it. He didn't quite know. Said it was evidently a case of poisoning, but was unable to decide further, or to find out what sort of poison, if any, had been used." I see. And what did the local police say? Have they found any clues yet?" The manager flushed, and he gave vent to a forced laugh. "As a matter of fact," he responded, "the local police know nothing about it. I have kept the loss an entire secret until I could call in the help of Scotland Yard." "A secret, Mr. Brent, with such a loss?" ejaculated Mr. Narkom. "That's surely an unusual course to pursue. When a bank loses such a large sum of money, and in bank notes, the most easily handled commodity in the world, and in addition a mysterious murder takes place, one would naturally expect that the first act would be to call in the officers of the law. That is, unless... I see. Well, it's more than I do," responded Mr. Brent sadly. "Do you see any light, however?" "Hardly that. But it stands to reason that if you're prepared to make good the loss, a course to which there seems no alternative, there is an obvious possibility that you yourself have some faint idea as to who the criminal is, and are anxious that your suspicions should not be verified." Mr. Headland, otherwise Cleek, looked at his friend with considerable admiration shining in his eyes. "Beginning to use his old head at last," he thought, as he watched the superintendent's keen face. "Well, well, it's never too late to mend, anyhow." And then aloud, "Exactly my thought, Mr. Narkom. Perhaps Mr. Brent could enlighten us as to his own suspicions, for I'm positive that he has some tucked away somewhere in his mind." "Jove, if you're not almost supernatural, Mr. Headland," returned that gentleman, with a heavy sigh. "You have certainly unearthed something which I thought was hidden only in my own soul. That is exactly the reason I have kept silent. My suspicions, were I to voice them, might drag the person accused still deeper into the mire of his own foolishness. There's Patterson, for instance. He would arrest him on sight without the slightest compunction." "Patterson?" threw in Cleek quickly. "Patterson. The name's familiar. Don't suppose, though, that it would be the same one. It is a common enough name. Company promoter who made a pile on copper the first year of the war, and retired with the swag, to put it brutally. 'Tisn't that chap, I suppose?" "The identical man!" returned Mr. Brent excitedly. "He came here some 5 years ago, bought up Mount Morris Court, a fine place having a view of the whole town, and he has lately started to run an opposition bank to ours, doing everything in his power to overthrow my position here. It's spite, I believe, against myself as well as George. The young fool had the impudence to ask his daughter's hand, and what was more, ran off with her and they were married, which increased Patterson's hatred of us both almost to insanity." "I see," said Cleek. "Who is George?" "My stepson, Mr. Headland, unfortunately for me, my late wife's boy by her first marriage. I have to admit it regretfully enough, he was the cause of his mother's death. He literally broke her heart by his wild living, and I was only too glad to give him a small allowance, which however helped him with his unhappy marriage, and hoped to see the last of George Barrington." Cleek twitched up an inquiring eye.